Everyone, welcome back to the Total NASL channel. I'm here with Mike Carney for a new show. Hopefully, we keep this going for the next couple of weeks during the season, Mike. And this is going to be called the Saturday Chat because it's Saturday. We would do this Saturday morning, but it's Saturday afternoon. But Mike, how are you today, Mike?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Big game today between Minnesota United and Indy 11, and of course qualifications for the Indianapolis 500. So I'm pumped for today.
Yes. So I just want to let everyone know that if you're watching live, this is interactive. You can tweet us at Total NASL. Even if you're watching this on replay, you can still tweet us and what are your thoughts on the show and what's going on. And we're here with Mike. Mike, let's start talking about expansion at the moment. There is a tweet from @thegoalkeeper. He was saying how he was on a phone with someone that knew a lot more than we did for 2 hours. And some talk about a team going to Philadelphia, a NASL club. And I think the first question to you, Mike, is do you think a team in Philadelphia could succeed with the Union in town?
Absolutely. I think we're in the stage of the history of American soccer where 2 or 3 teams can compete in any city out there, whether that be a small city or a medium-sized city like Oklahoma City has 2 soccer teams with Energy OKC and Raya OKC, or a big city like New York, where they have 2 with the Cosmos and the NYCFC, but they also throw in the Red Bulls in there too, even though they play in New Jersey. So I mean, I think any team or any city can have multiple teams. Chicago's getting ready to have 2 teams. Jonathan Tannenwald was the one who reported all that information this past week about a team in I believe it's called the American Soccer League. I'm not quite sure. Something like that.
Below the MPSL, I think. Like I don't think they're even professional.
Right. But he tweeted out that their owners or connect people within the club there have been asking questions about joining leagues, and one of them was the NASL. They're called the Philadelphia Fury. So if they do join the league, they'll definitely have to change their name because of Ottawa's already in the league. But yeah, I think Philadelphia would be a good city to be in for the NASL. Like to see more West Coast expansion, but we've been told it's coming, so we'll just have to be a little bit more patient on that. I think it's a good deal if it turns out to be something actually tangible and has legs and actually can spread and is actually something that's real. Because we hear about this stuff all the time, but it seems like a good possibility the NASL could have a team in Philadelphia.
Yeah, according to Jonathan's tweets, it sort of sounds like this could be possible. But I think the most important thing is who is going to own this club. And he sort of talked about international ownership, if I'm correct, Mike.
Right.
I don't know if he was talking about maybe a La Liga club, maybe Ibar, because they're in town. So it feels like at the time when the Cosmos announced that they were playing Ibar, everyone was like, why? Why in the middle of the spring? And now it looks like pieces are actually coming together and saying, like, oh, that's why you guys are playing Ibar. Maybe you're going to Las Vegas to see if a club can actually work there. Or maybe the Ibar owners are here and seeing maybe they can own a club in Philadelphia because they're going to play the Fury. I don't know if they play them yet, but there's plans to play them sometime soon. So I don't know. It's a very tricky one. But say if Ibar does come in and own a team, Rayo Vallecano owns a team, so maybe that's where they got connected maybe.
Right. So I haven't heard much about Ibar, but I've heard about wanting to own a team or anything like that. I know they play in Las Vegas here coming up against the New York Cosmos. But I have heard rumors about Celtic in the Scottish Premier League wanting to own a team in the NASL, so I think there's a possibility there. Not quite sure. That rumor's been going around for a while, so not quite sure if that's ever going to come to fruition, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that Celtic rumor, it just got thrown out there once, and then it just like stopped. I don't know if that was true. I really wish we knew someone that actually had a bit more connection into all these rumors, and they were
Right.
like, oh yeah, it's true, or no, it's not true. But to me personally, Philadelphia, and I think we're getting to that point in U.S. soccer where we're both competing for markets, and I think MLS, okay, they're the top division and they're doing what they could do at the top level, but I think there is room for more teams in a market. We're seeing in Oklahoma, they're being called a soccer city. You know what I mean? Oklahoma is a soccer city.
Right.
Atlanta, even though they don't have an MLS club, I was talking to Paul for my podcast, and it really sounded like there's so much support there for all the different types of teams they have in Atlanta. So, me personally, there is so much room to grow in every single market. And West Coast, hopefully that comes soon. Mike, if we do see some West Coast clubs, where would you want to see them play?
Where I would like to see them play, I would like to see the LA Aztecs be reborn. I know last year I did an article for Total NASL talking to one of the guys who runs the LA Aztecs Twitter account, and he owns other Twitter accounts as well. So he's very connected within the soccer community there. And he's said that he's told the league if they want to, take that logo and brand back over and that Twitter account over, they're more than welcome to. So I'd really like to see the LA Aztecs come in, especially given that LAFC is coming in. So that should be 3 teams out there. That would be the next stop. I'd like to see San Diego. Not quite sure how that will work out. Not quite sure where they would play. I'm not very familiar with San Diego, because I know Qualcomm Stadium is basically falling apart and it's old and decrepitating. That's where the San Diego Chargers play in the NFL. They may be able to play where the San Diego Padres play. I'm not sure how they would be able to convert that baseball stadium into a soccer stadium, but there's 2 possibilities there. I'd like to see San Diego. So that would be my next. My next 2 cities, that if I'm the league, that's who I'm looking into. I'd also like to be getting back into Texas as well. As big as that state is, I think multiple teams can easily play in that state, whether it's, Houston or Dallas or San Antonio, as the Scorpions were in. Now they're obviously somehow in the USL, but there's other cities in that state as well. Austin, El Paso, that could be good cities for an NASL team, a strong NASL team. So we'll just have to wait and see. But those are my top 3 cities that I would like to see on the West Coast and in the southern part of the United States.
Or maybe Oakland as well, because I think I heard that the Raiders might be leaving. So in Oakland, they would just have the A's and throw in a NASL club there.
Yeah. Well, actually, the Raiders want to leave as well as the A's. The A's have been pushing to join.
So it's the best spot. The only professional sport you would have there is NASL. Would that be cool? Like, it would be really the only market where there's only one sort of sport team there.
Right. Well, they still have the Warriors, who are called the Golden State Warriors, but they still play in Oakland. But I don't know. The economy has been pretty bad in Oakland recently, so I'm not quite sure how that would pan out there. They would. I don't know what stadium they would play in. Obviously, it wouldn't be where the A's/Raiders play. I've heard some really bad stories about that stadium, so wouldn't play there. I'd have to either build a new stadium themselves or find a temporary stadium. But yeah, I don't know about Oakland just because of the economy there. I'm not quite sold on that city yet for an expansion team in the ASL.
They can't renovate the stadium? Isn't it huge, right? Or no?
It's massive, but I've heard it's so bad that it's not even worth putting money into it. It's actually cheaper just to build a new stadium at this point.
Okay, so hopefully we see some teams there on the West Coast. Hopefully sometime soon. And moving on, or before we move on, Bill Peterson, I saw a photo on Twitter on some type of blog, and Bill Peterson was in Atlanta taking a picture with some type of important people that may be bringing a club back to Atlanta. Where do you stand on this, Mike? Would you want to see a club back in Atlanta? I really feel like there is support, and we talked about how MLS and NASL can support in the same market. But would you like to see maybe a club competing with Atlanta United?
Yes, but I'm biased when I say that because I'm a member of the Atlanta Silverbacks Trust, and I'll publicly say that. So I'd like to see the Silverbacks back in the NASL. With that being said, there have been rumors going around that they're trying to rebrand and reborn the Atlanta Chiefs, in which the Atlanta Silverbacks Trust has no part in that whatsoever. This is a totally different group. This is their own entity. No connections with Atlanta United of the MLS or Atlanta Silverbacks. Nothing. This is their own little thing that they want to do. I think it's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, outside of Atlanta, just outside Atlanta, but that would be a good spot. I mean, there's 6 million people that live in the metropolitan area of Atlanta, so
Yeah.
they can easily support 2 soccer teams down there, whether that be in the lower divisions where the Atlanta Silverbacks are now, or in the MLS with Atlanta United, or even in the NASL. So yeah, I think that's probably the strongest spot where, or the next stop that NASL is going to be in, or try and get back into, is Atlanta, besides Chicago. And of course, earlier this week, Nashville is moving up from the NPSL up to the USL, so that was news as well, because I know there was some NASL interest down in that city as well, but USL won that bid. So there'll be a new professional soccer team in Nashville. Of course, it's not a new club, but they're moving up the ranks to be a full-time professional team.
Yeah, but before we go in detail talking about Nashville, I just want to throw a quick plug on my podcast, First Team Podcast. I talked to Paul Scaling of Gorilla Talk. It's not released yet. It's going to be released sometime next week. But we talked about very in depth about how a NASL team can survive in that market. And he goes really in depth about what Mike was talking about. It's going to be a great listen because Paul's on the ground. He knows what's going on. And he's supporting the Silverbacks in the NPSL. He was saying that they were drawing nice crowds. Imagine 2,000 people at a NPSL match. That's massive. But talking about Nashville, Mike, if you're the owner of Nashville FC, right, you can go to the USL and say you have the money to go to both leagues. Say you can go to the USL, but you're only on YouTube, right? For free. Everyone can watch your match on YouTube. Or you pay extra money, you go to the second division, NASL, and you're on beIN Sports, you're on CBS Sports, you're on ESPN3, and you're sort of viewable around the world. Isn't that more attractive for an owner to go higher up to first division? Isn't that the goal, is to try to get as high as you can in the pyramid, or no?
Right. Well, in my opinion, if I'm wanting to own a soccer team, I go to the USL first, believe it or not. And the reason why is because in the long term, I have a chance and an opportunity to move up to the MLS, or at least there's that hope.
That's the goal, right?
You know, that's the goal. It doesn't matter what soccer team you own. If you have ambitions, the ultimate goal is to be in the MLS. It has to be. That's where the most money is. You have to put the most money up front, but you get the most return for your investment. In ASL, yes, you will be exposed to a lot of different markets and a lot of different people short term because of all the television and media connections within the league. However, you're not going to get that exposure that the MLS will or would if you would join that league. Now, with that being said, NASL is trying to push for a first division. I don't know if they'll ever get the opportunity to be considered first division. Right now, MLS is, and I don't see that going away anytime soon. And so USL, and then obviously to MLS. Do I like the NASL? Absolutely. I think it's the best league in North America, or at least in the United States and Canada. But if I'm an owner and I want the biggest return for my investment, I go to USL and then up the ranks to MLS. Hopefully, would be the goal there.
Yeah, we always hear some owners in the NASL, they're losing money. So
Right.
yeah, and also the USL, you can sort of get in front of a lot more people maybe on YouTube because it's viewable and
Right.
and it's probably cheaper as well. So you don't really have to invest a lot into the league as much
Right.
as you would NASL.
Right.
So maybe it's a better league, and you can get in front of MLS eyes as well. It's like, well, that's our league as well,
Right.
in a way. But we're going to close the expansion talk a bit, talking about Detroit City FC. They renovated their own stadium, Mike.
Right.
They had a GoFundMe campaign to renovate their stadium. That's really grassroots, but it actually shows that people actually care about that club, and they sort of helped them renovate it. And they had their first match, I think, was last night. Could we potentially see Detroit City going to NASL or maybe losing them to USL?
I'm not that familiar with
What
Detroit
are your
City
thoughts?
FC.
Like, where would you want to see them fall into, like what we talked about with Nashville?
Honestly, I think that they're aiming for a more grassroots type of fan base, and I think that, in my opinion, I'm not quite sure, but I think that the league that they're in now is the league that they want to stay in to attract those grassroots fans and those fans that say, I don't like MLS. I don't like these big teams that can come in and just buy their way into these leagues. I want a team that's going to work hard, that's going to pay their way and make their own path to whatever they go into in the future. Whether they get up into the ranks of USL, NASL, MLS, I don't know. But they're really hitting those fans that are grassroots efforts that may not necessarily like the teams that have $100 million that can spend, and all of a sudden they're a new franchise starting. They want a grassroots effort, and they had their first home game last night. I think I saw there was a little over 7,000 over there, which for fourth division soccer here in the United States, that's pretty impressive. There's teams in the USL and NASL that can't attract 7,000 fans. They only dream of that. So for Detroit City FC to do that, that's quite remarkable. And I think I saw that they did start that GoFundMe page, and it was like 6 figures they raised to renovate that stadium. So that's huge for a team in fourth division U.S. soccer to be able to have all those connections and make those connections and say, this is a true soccer team and will represent Detroit to what Detroit stands for in its true essence. And so you have to admire that and what they've been able to do.
Yeah, it's great that they're doing all that. And it sort of sounded like, Mike, that you were talking about they're waiting for maybe Pro Rel to come out of nowhere and sort of sweep them to D1. Because you were saying that their owners probably don't have the money to go up there, right? Because
they have
$100 million just laying around. If they did, they would be in the NPSL. But it sort of sounded like those people that you were talking about, like maybe they're fans that fell in love with Grassroots. I like it as well. I sort of like non-league in England is great. It's great, great things going on. But yeah, sort of leaning towards Pro Rel, no?
I don't know. I don't know exactly what their ownership group or their supporters group actually want. I know they've been very vocal these past month and a half about the whole situation with the new team coming into the MLS and their owners and what they're going to represent compared to what Detroit City is going to represent. But as far as Pro Rel, I'm not quite sure what they want there.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was just throwing it out there because from what you said, it sounded like they're leaning towards that. But moving on from expansion's always good to talk about, and it would always have a place on the Saturday chat. So let's talk about Indy 11, Minnesota United tonight. It's going to be a crazy match, and I'm hoping all these results go the right way so the Cosmos can get first place at the end of the night. That should always be the goal of a Cosmos supporter, right? Michael, Indy 11, you're going to be there, or no, you're not going to be there.
I'll be there. Yep, I'll be there.
Okay, Jordan's going to be there as well. So we're hearing a total NASL meetup at the BYB tailgate. And so you guys are taking on maybe one of the hottest teams in the league, Minnesota United, and you're one of the hottest teams as well. Can you talk about this matchup and how you guys have gotten to be undefeated so far? Because you've gone from being a team last year that really hasn't been the best team.
Right.
You may be one of the best teams in the league so far.
Right. Well, I agree 100% that Minnesota is the hottest team in the league. I'm not quite sure if Indy 11 is, but they're the only unbeaten team left in the NASL for sure. So this is going to be it. Some people are calling this, the biggest game in club history, and I quite frankly would have to agree to that. I mean, this is huge. The implications are written all over this game. There's storylines running all through this game, multiple ones. Minnesota right now, Minnesota United and Indy 11 control their own destiny because Carolina, New York, and Edmonton, who are in between Minnesota and Indy 11, they have a game at hand on those three teams. So Indy 11 and Minnesota do. So Carolina, New York, and Edmonton have yet to take their bye week or go on their bye week. So with that being said, if Indy 11 can pull out a win here, they can essentially be tied for top of the standings by the end of the night. Now, obviously, they won't be by the end of the weekend simply because the Carolina Railhawks and FC Edmonton play each other. So worst case scenario, if that comes out with a draw, Carolina will be back on top by 1 point. If New York wins, I think they're going to be back on top with 1 point ahead. But that's huge because you're 1 point off the top of the table if Indy 11 can win, and you have a game at hand. So that's huge. For Minnesota, it's big because then you can go essentially 3 to 4 points clear at the top of the table with the game at hand still, and all you have to do is just see out those remaining results until those other teams take their bye weeks, and then you have clinched the league. Same thing with Indy 11. So it's going to be a big night tonight. I'm looking forward to it. The reason why is because Minnesota really doesn't have a whole lot of weak links or a lot of holes that Indy 11 can expose or any team can expose. I mean, they're tied for the league lead in goals with 11, tied with the league lead in shutouts with 4, and they've only allowed 4 goals this season. The other team that has allowed 4 goals is Indy 11. So these two teams have solid back lines and goalkeepers. With that being said, I hope Indy 11 pulls out the result. I'm pulling for a 1-0 victory. But Minnesota United does 3 things really well, and that could make things difficult, let's say, for Indy 11. One, they're excellent on the counterattack. They've scored 3 goals this year from their counterattack. It's quick, it's lethal, it's deadly. What they do well on their counterattack is they have design runs and quick patterns of play, which you saw that last year with Manny Lagos as the head coach. Now that he's been promoted, you're still seeing that with Carl Craig, their head coach. They also, with those 2 things being said, the counterattack patterns of play, they're very good at pressuring the back line of opposing teams, especially when all the loons are behind the ball. When you have all 11 Minnesota United players behind the ball, they love to pressure in that first and mid third, and the opposing teams don't play it quick enough, and because of that, they turn the ball over, and that leads to a Minnesota United goal. Which is going to make things interesting. One, because Indy 11 keeps majority of their possession during the games this year, at least has, according to the stats, within their back line. That's where the majority of possession is. If it's not in the back line, it's on the wings. So that means that the center mids in this game, whoever that is, it probably won't be Brad Ring because he's out with an injury, but whoever that is, they're going to have to step up in that center of the field and play the ball quick. Also, too, maybe Indy 11 adopts a way where their back line just plays the balls over the top in hopes to catch Minnesota out of position. So I'm hoping for that as well, if the center mids cannot hold their own possession. So what I'm looking for Indy 11 this game is, one, there's only one man in the world that can beat Superman. Last week he answered the call in Fort Lauderdale.
It's Batman, right?
Speaking of, do what?
It's Batman, right? Batman can be.
Yep, that's right. So it's turning out to be John Bush. because he saved the day several times for Indy 11 last week in Fort Lauderdale. And this week, there's going to be a signal in the sky, and he's going to have to answer that even better this game. He's going to have to play really not only, I mean, he played great last week, but he's going to have to play excellent this week as well, in hopes that if Indy 11 have a chance to win this game, he has to. So he's going to have to answer the call and stop Superman this week, which Superman is, of course, Christian Ramirez, who leads the league in goals, or is tied for the league in goals. And he has the most goals in Minnesota United history. So he's lethal up top. He can score from anywhere, as you saw that throughout the season so far. With that being said, that's, they're going to have to expose, Indy 11 will have to expose Indy 11's weakest link, which in this case, in my opinion, is Sammy Injok, the goalkeeper for Minnesota United. And I know that sounds crazy because he has 4 shutouts this year and has only allowed 4 goals. When he's on his A game, it's because, and he's in his comfort zone, it's because when he's on his goal line, he can stop any shot that comes his way. It's when he gets off his goal line and he's out of his comfort zone. He's been known to do a few mistakes. You saw it this year in the first game against Carolina. He was chipped over the top. Against Ottawa, he dropped the ball. He went up in the air, dropped the ball. He wasn't even challenged. That led to an Ottawa equalizer, and the Fury tied the game 2-2. So if Indy 11 wants a chance to win, they're really going to have to make Sammy Injok uncomfortable and get him off that goal line. If not, he could walk away with a clean sheet because he's so good at stopping everything that comes his way. So that's what I see. The third thing that Indy 11 have to do well is they have to have pressure from the first defender. 2 weeks ago against FC Edmonton, nobody pressured the ball. The ball was played in the box, and Jake Keegan was able to score and make it level at 1-1, and FC Edmonton and Indy 11 tied the game, or it ended in a 1-1 draw. Last week, the first defender didn't pressure the ball, which allowed Fort Lauderdale to have those penetrating passes and those shots in and around goal, and crosses as well. So they have to have pressure from their first defender to stop those passes from getting inside the box or stop those counterattacks from happening, especially if Indy 11 is caught in a numbers down situation. And that doesn't just happen with the back line from the first defender pressuring the ball. It starts with the midfield and forwards pressuring the ball on that first defender, not necessarily to cause turnovers, but just stop from those penetrating passes. So that's what I see from Indy 11. John Bush has to be on his A game, has to play even better this week than he did last week in Fort Lauderdale. First defender has to be pressuring the ball, and of course getting Sammy Injok uncomfortable and off his goal line. Those are the 3 keys for Indy 11 this match, and that's why if they do those 3 things well, they'll walk away with a 1-0 win.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans throughout the league are probably hoping for a draw. So since you're an Indy 11 fan, do you see a clear winner in this match, or do you see it maybe no one's really going to win the match? It's just going to be 1-1. It's just going to be a draw.
With both teams and how well they are defensively, and where they keep possession and how well they are on the counter, really no team's going to have a clear-cut chance of winning this game. It's going to come down to, half a chance, where just the ball bounces the right way and somebody's able to strike it and it goes in the back of the net. I mean, I see this game being so tight, it's going to be a 1-0 win or a 0-0 draw. I mean, just because of how well both teams play defensively. So with that being said, I see somebody just getting on a half a chance. Hopefully it's for Indy 11 because I'm pulling for a 1-0 win. Whether that be Eamon Zayed or someone else, just not even getting a full chance, just a half a chance, and just putting the ball in the back of the net. That's how close I see this game.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a big fat draw in this one.
Yeah.
Because if you guys draw, right, so you guys both get a point. So you guys are both with 14 points. And then say if the Cosmos beat the Rowdies, that's going to be really hard as well. But if they somehow do it, because we're great at home, if the Cosmos do win, then we will be in first place, maybe just for the week. But just great to be in first place because Cosmos fans are always used to being in first place, and I know we've only been in the league for like 3 years, but
Right, right,
yeah. So we were in first place after we beat Carolina and then Miami, and then you guys just got better. I mean, you
right,
didn't get better; you just kept on winning, and
right,
we just like our form has just been going down and going up, going down, and this is our chance to redeem it right now. So what's weird about this weekend, and maybe the NASL planned it this way, maybe because MLS competition on the TV. But 2 matches tonight, 3 matches tomorrow. Sunday is
right,
like the day to actually sit down and watch NASL.
right.
But tonight is in 11 Minnesota, and you said 1-0 potentially in
Yep.
11. This is the part of the show where when Mike gives you his predictions, sort of in a hot fire round. Rayo OKC against Fort Lauderdale Strikers. Mike, what do you think this match is going to pan out? How do you think it's going to pan out?
I see Rayo OKC and Fort Lauderdale coming away with a 1-1 draw. That's how I see that game playing out. Look, Rayo OKC is really good, but Fort Lauderdale is building something down there in southern Florida. They've been able to get some good results here these past couple weeks. So I see them being very strong here and being very tough to beat in these last few remaining games of the spring season. So I will call for a 1-1 draw here in between Rayo OKC and the Fort Lauderdale Strikers.
And Rayo OKC has the top goal scorer on their team. Michelle is like a great midfielder. I want him on my side in my fantasy team. Something that Teo just does. He loves pool, so shout out to Teo.
Right.
But
I'll tell you what. Michelle could honestly, he's very good in the NASL and he's really good for Rayo OKC, but he could play at higher levels than just MLS right now, in my opinion. And
maybe La Liga, Premier League, maybe like a big transfer
and
fee.
be just as successful as he is in the NASL. I know his age kind of plays a little factor in there, but I still see him playing really well in much higher leagues, whether that be in North America or wherever around the world. He's just good.
Everton, don't you hear that? Go buy Michelle.
Yeah.
Go buy him. We need him in the midfield. No, I'm just joking. But Sunday, it's the time to watch NASL action. The best day because 3 matches on the call. We have Ottawa against Jacks.
Yep. Jacksonville Armada versus Ottawa Fury. I believe Ottawa is at home this game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you
correct?
are. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's their second home match. So
right, that's a clear cut. Give me on that one. Fury 2, Armada 0. The reason why is, and I'm sorry, Logie, but the Armada have yet to win on the road. So if they haven't been able to win on the road yet in their second season, I'm not calling for them to bring out the 3 points in that game. And that's why I'm going with Ottawa 2-0.
And I'm just sort of speculating here, right? Do you think they're going to get their road win this season or no?
Eventually, yes.
Think so?
I think they'll eventually get it. But they may only win 1 or 2 games on the road this year, and just the way they're playing at home and on the road this year, and just the way their roster has been shaken up here in the past couple of weeks. I just see them only getting 1 or 2 road games this year. I do see them winning on the road, but just 1 or 2 at best.
You bring in Tony Meola, the Armada bring in Tony Meola, and you think, okay, everything's maybe a bit better. Maybe we can get back to winning. And it doesn't seem like he brought winning to the team, which is very sad. But maybe he has a long-term plan, not a one-year plan like Edwards does. FC Edmonton against the Carolina Railhawks. This is a big match because FC Edmonton are trying to win the spring, apparently.
Yeah, I guess they don't need rest at all. And I guess they don't need their sleep. They don't need their rest. They don't need any of that. And they've been able to defy all the odds, whether that be traveling to Jacksonville, Indianapolis, playing cross country in Ottawa, which is not an easy flight. I mean, that's like traveling from Denver to Indianapolis in terms of miles. And yet they still defy the odds and are able to pull out some decent results. I do see this game coming away with a 1-1 draw.
Yes.
And I know that's a very pro Indy 11 bias there, or a pro New York Cosmos bias there.
All the results you've been saying
Yeah.
have the Cosmos
Yeah.
in winning the league in a way. So
right.
yeah.
But I see this game as a 0-0 draw.
Okay. So if that happens, you have FC Edmonton finishing the weekend with 12 points and Carolina finishing with 14. So that would mean the Cosmos would still be top of the table. So that's getting very exciting. Is this all going to happen? Probably not. So the last match of the weekend, a very iconic match, marquee match if you want to call it, because it's the last match of the weekend.
Right.
To finish your NASL action, Tampa Bay Rowdies, New York Cosmos. Biggest matchup, I think, for the weekend, besides if you put the Indy 11 and Minnesota United match to the side, because it's going to be over by the time that game starts. If you put that to the side, this is the biggest match on Sunday.
Yep, I would agree with that. And, I mean, biggest match, obviously, Saturday is Indy 11, Minnesota. Biggest match, Cosmos, Tampa Bay on Sunday. The Cosmos are just so good at home. They really are. It's almost they're untouchable at home. I don't know if they've even allowed a goal at home this season. If I'm not mistaken, if they have, it's only been 1 or 2. With that being said, Tampa Bay is desperate for a win. They really need a big win against a top of the table team like the New York Cosmos, especially given the fact that Joe Cool is with the Rowdies now. My heart says Tampa Bay. My head says Cosmos. So I will go with a 2-2 draw. I'll go with a 2-2 draw. There we go.
Mike, always use your head.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Cosmos, nothing. Cosmos, 8-0. No, I don't know. I'm making stuff up.
No,
But
it won't be that. It won't be that.
We're so great at home that the Rowdies can't even score a goal on us. They can't.
I know. So that's why I'll go with my heart and saying the Rowdies get 2 goals, but I'll go with my head and say the Cosmos also get 2 goals. So there we go. Compromise there. So 2-2 draw, which also helps in the 11.
Mike is saying that result because he doesn't want to offend anyone. So the 5 points are happy, and Ross Mob is pretty happy as well. So thanks to all the support groups for your support. But we're gonna touch on international friendlies in the NASL, and this will be our last topic, Mike. It seems like this is the trend at the moment. Cosmos playing Ibar, Carolina Railhawks playing West Ham United, a very great team, and they're growing to be a great team in the Premier League.
Right.
Do you think we're going to see matches like this happen in the future? Or are these clubs starting it for the rest of the league?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you saw, was it last year or the year before, Minnesota United played Swansea. Indy 11 played Monarcas Morelia from Mexico. And they had a heck of an incredible season. They made the playoffs this year in Mexico. So kudos to them. I think it's going to be the trend as time goes on. I know Jacksonville has played some big games as well, as well as the Fort Lauderdale Strikers with hosting their little friendly matches over the wintertime. Yeah, it's going to be the trend, whether that be MLS or English Premier League teams or teams from Mexico or South America, wherever. I think we're going to start seeing bigger and bigger clubs take notice of the second and third division teams here in the United States and even Canada and say, wow, these teams are actually pretty good. Let's go play them and let's challenge ourselves here in the preseason. Now, I'm not quite sure if Ibar or West Ham United bring their top players into the games against the Cosmos or against the Carolina Railhawks. I'm not quite sure because it is preseason and they're just trying to make sure everybody is fit and on the same page as philosophy goes. But we'll see. Regardless, it's still huge. It's still big for those clubs that are able to host them, whether that be in Las Vegas or Cary, North Carolina. it's still big, and it's still going to get a lot of attention for this league, and that's what they need right now.
Yeah, you're talking about if they're going to start their key players. Ibar, I think they might because they're coming at the end of their season, so maybe they're bringing their top
Right.
players, just
Right.
train a little bit, stay fit, and then just go off on
Right.
holiday. And then you have the Redhawks. I mean, West Ham United. They have some players that are going to be playing in the Euros and playing in other tournaments throughout the summer. So I don't really think you're going to see like their actual important players come to Carolina. But even if they don't bring their top players, it's West Ham United, and they're coming to Carolina. So, I mean, they're going to sell out that stadium like no tomorrow. And I think the hope is even if they draw in fans that say have never been to a match to see the Redhawks play, hopefully they can actually keep these fans back and say, okay, we're playing the Cosmos tomorrow. We're playing the 11. That has to be the goal every single time they bring in a top club. Because I think people see, okay, I watch Ibar or I watch West Ham United on TV, and then they come here and they're just here because West Ham is here. So I really think that has to be the goal, is to keep them here, no?
Right, absolutely. And just because they may not be bringing their marquee players, fans are still going to be able to relate to them when they turn on a West Ham game or an Ibar game 2 or 3 years down the road and say, oh, hey, I remember that guy. He dominated, against the Railhawks, or he did this, spectacular pass, or made this, had this excellent first touch. And, now it doesn't surprise me there. I know he's taking England by storm, or taking the world by storm. But, that doesn't surprise me because we saw him a couple years ago and he had that same potential there. So, I mean, it's still going to be fans are still going to be able to make those connections. The clubs here in the United States, whether it be Cosmos, Carolina, who else ever, they have to play their A game those games because the crowds are going to be so big and so massive, and all the attention is going to be on them. If they want to retain those fans, like you said, they have to play their A game and draw bigger crowds, or even or maintain their big crowds when they play those marquee matchups in the NASL. Absolutely.
Yeah, the West Ham execs went to Wickman Soccer Park to check out the area, check out the facilities, and they said when they were searching for opponents, they were trying to find a sort of a team that could perform like them, and they picked the Redhawks, and it was pretty cool because they're playing the Redhawks, and then they're going to play the Sounders as well. So that's an MLS side and NASL. And then you have Ibar is not even playing an MLS side. They're just coming playing Cosmos and playing a team in the lowest division possible. I would never think a team from Europe would come here and play that league. But again, I think it's all associated with some type of expansion. Everything happens for a reason, and the expansion happens for a reason as well. So last thing I want to touch, but I just forgot. So thank you, Mike, for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're watching on a replay, follow us on Twitter at Total NASL. Comment below. Discuss what we talked about. Expansion. Where do you want to see it happen on the West Coast? Do you like international friendlies? They're good for North America. Mike, thanks again for joining the show, and hopefully we can keep this going. The Saturday chat. I enjoyed the Saturday chat. Did you enjoy the Saturday chat?
I did. Thanks for having me on. And one last plug-in. I don't know if anybody could see it on John's screen, but he has the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500 logo on his shirt. I have my Indianapolis 500 Indianapolis Motor Speedway MotoGP shirt on. Yeah. So we are rocking the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here on the Total NASL. Of course, the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500 is going to be next Sunday, not this coming, the 29th. Wow. And it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. So, looking forward to that as well. So hopefully we can make history here in Indianapolis with the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, and on top of that, just make all the Hoosiers happy here in the Circle City, with Indy 11 coming away with a big one tonight and continuing that trend against the Armada and Miami FC to close out the month of May.
Yeah, I just want to note that we're not sponsored by the Indy Motor Speedway or Indy 500 by any way, but we support Team Motor Speedway. On the other hand, I want to say that all the Hoosiers, they support their local things going on there. They support Indy 11. They support the Indy 500. And I was gonna say go Indy 11, but let's go for a draw. So yeah, so subscribe if you're new. Leave a like rating if you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Mike enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next Saturday.